geoPhone provides a phone location macro that's very similar to the Splunk command iplocation, except instead of using an IP to get your location, it uses your phone numbering plan. This first panel just shows a consecutive series of appended commands, and it just shows you what each command does to enhance the data set along the way to get the information that we need from the lookup tables or from the macros so that we can plot our stuff. What we see here on this world map is that the bigger the circle is, the more calls are going here. And the calls are broken out whether they're greater than 10 seconds or less than 10 seconds. And that's a key metric because if it's less than 10 seconds, it might be a language problem. People don't speak the same language. It might be a noisy line. It might be a one-way audio. It might be that it's a wrong number. So less than 10 seconds is an important metric. Greater than 10 seconds tells us if the calls that are happening, how legitimate is the mix. Any of these you can click on and drill on. You can zoom in. We're not going to do that. Let's take a look at the calls themselves broken out in relationship to the whole. The phone numbering plans are allocated by global regions. So there's a large number of area codes that are reserved for North America, but they're not in use yet. Some of them are pre-allocated because a state, for example, is going to do an area code split, and they've set a date for it, and they've grabbed the new area code, but they haven't launched it. So those will show up as unused. These are pre-allocated, will soon be used, but they're not being used right now. Other ones have not been pre-allocated, or in this case, 005, the ones that begin with 0 are totally bogus. So the bogus ones and unused ones, but especially the bogus ones, are key ones to look at for people that are spoofing their Annie. People should not be lying about what phone number they're using. If they are, something suspicious, something gray hat, black hat is happening. You need to look into that. So everybody's looking into these bad IPs, but nobody's really looking into bad telephone numbers. This product gives you a way to look at that. You can click on this, drill down, and see the details. And if you've got VoIP, you've got a whole bunch of extra information you can deal with on top of the telephone number. We're not going to click, but that's something that you in your organization need to look at. The only two subregions I do are United States, and Canadian provinces. We could support other stuff, I just didn't get it done. So you can see that these three provinces in Canada are linked together. That's because they share an area code. So you can't tell Yukon from Northwest Territories, can't tell that because they share the same area code. So they're always going to be lumped together. In this case, we see that the most calls coming in, obviously, are from Ontario. 90% of the calls coming in makes perfect sense. Come over here to the United States, same thing. 10% of the calls are coming from California. 8% of the calls are coming from Texas. High-tech operation. Makes perfect sense. Large number of calls coming from toll-free, not strictly United States, but most likely United States. Pulled those in to show as well. If you take a breakout of the calls with eliminating North America, USA, UK, and Canada, because they overwhelm the pie chart, here's how it looks for the most calling countries. This might tell you, for example, hey, we got a bunch of people calling from Puerto Rico. We ran an ad blitz in there. That's really working. We got more calls coming in. Or it might say, oh, well, we got problems with our product in Puerto Rico because it's a port line, and why are so many people calling? It'll tell you, maybe something's going on there. And we talked about less than 10 seconds. Let's take a look at the regions as a percent of all calls that are showing all or most of their calls coming in at less than 10 seconds. And we see, for example, Colombia, China are coming in as very high, less than 10 seconds. Cyprus. These are places potentially that don't speak English, and maybe we should hire some people that speak their native language. Or maybe there's something wrong with the trunking between those countries and our system. And maybe we need to get with our vendors to figure out what that is. These other plots just show what is the average duration seconds by country, the minimum duration seconds by country, and the maximum duration seconds by country. So if you look at the maximum, this might tell you something useful. In our data set, the UK is a very high, but the actual very highest here is obviously the United States. But this might show you something useful about your data. Do we need to do something about the fact that we have these very long calls coming in from these particular places? And this has a breakdown of every country in the data set is listed here on this bar chart. So the max duration and the min duration tell you something, and also the average duration tells you too. Maybe if the people are talking longer, maybe you need to hire better operators in that English-speaking data center. Or in this case, Spanish-speaking data center, Panama.